Beyond it is the promise of truth. It demands we question everything we have ever been taught. The evidence is all around us. The future is right before our eyes. We are not alone. We have never been alone. Osaka, Japan, July 1st, 2019. In a televised interview, Fox News political commentator Tucker Carlson asks President Donald Trump point blank about recent revelations concerning UFOs.
You've been briefed on unidentified flying objects. Are they real?
Well, I don't want to really get into it too much, but personally, I tend to doubt it. But we have had people saying that they've seen things. I'm not a believer, but, I guess anything's possible.
We spoke to a government official recently who said the U.S. government had wreckage from a UFO in a facility on an Air Force base. Are you familiar with
I haven't heard that, no.
Trump's answer was extraordinary because I don't believe there's been any other time in recent American history where a sitting president was asked this question in such a serious manner and gave a serious reply.
President Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson about UFOs was historic. Usually presidents, certainly sitting presidents, do not discuss this subject at all, and if they are ever asked about it, they dismiss the whole thing with a joke or an evasive answer.
Now, Ryan, if you're out in the crowd tonight, here's the answer to your question. No. As far as I know, an alien spacecraft did not crash in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947.
10 years ago, UFOs were about laughter. UFOs were the easiest punchline in a room. Not so today. Now, in the new world we live in, people are paying attention. We have moved from a fringe topic and brought UFOs to the forefront of both popular culture as well as mainstream media.
On August 29th, 2019, journalist and former British Defense Ministry employee Nick Pope traveled to Washington, D.C. He had arranged to meet with Tucker Carlson and get his thoughts on his extraordinary exchange with America's 45th president.
Tucker, hey, thank you, Nick. Nice to meet you in person.
Great to meet you. Thank you.
Thanks.
UFOs are real.
Tucker, you've taken the lead in the mainstream media in discussing the latest revelations about UFOs. Why is that? Is it personal interest?
I just believe it's clear that there's been deception around this question from the U.S. government, specifically, and I think it's important to find out more. I mean, if there is real evidence that this planet is being visited from other planets or solar systems, or even if there are aircraft whose behavior we can't explain, why is that not the biggest story in news?
I agree. Now, do you have any kind of pushback with that when you run these stories? How do the senior executives feel and other media professionals?
My feeling was it's time to rethink what you think you know. And so we started doing UFO segments, and basically the first 3 times we did it, people made fun of us, and after that, no one has said a single word about it.
Well, these videos that, we've all seen the Navy jets chasing the UFOs. What kind of emotional reaction do you get watching something like that?
You know pilots. My brother's a pilot. Talked to a lot of pilots. They're very interested in how things lift off the ground, and they're interested in flight. They're saying this is something completely different. I don't even know how this works. That's compelling to me. I asked the president about it.
What did you make of his response?
I thought his response was odd, to be honest with you. I thought it was odd.
In what way?
He said, I'm not interested in that topic at all. I'm not interested in that topic, and I don't think there's anything there. I didn't believe him when he said that, to be honest with you.
it was funny because he nodded his head and then said no.
That's exactly right. The president, like probably most people in power, is uncomfortable conceding that he's got questions. I mean, it's much easier just to say, there's nothing there, it's weather balloon, and because there's a stigma attached to asking questions. I mean, I've never once said that I believe anything in particular about UFOs because I don't know what to believe, but I know when I see it.
Do you think he knows more than he's letting on, or do you think, as some people say, even the president doesn't know?
My impression was that the president does know more than he said. You know, you'd have to think that any person of moderate curiosity, given the power that a president has, would at some point in, his first couple of years in office, would call down and say, send me all the information you have on UFOs. Like, why wouldn't you do that?
Do you think the public want to know?
Let's be honest. The people keeping this information secret at the Pentagon believe the information is so terrifying to the public that it would be contrary to the national interest to reveal it. I mean, obviously.
When we run through the theories about this, we say, could it be some other part of the US government, some secret blind project? Could it be Russia or China? Or could it be extraterrestrial?
I'm starting to believe that there is, and I've heard this from someone who I think is knowledgeable on the subject, that there is physical evidence that the US government is holding that would tell us a lot more about what these objects are.
Physical evidence, wreckage.
That is correct.
Who was that?
It's a well-known, as someone who worked on this within the government for many years, who would know. And I asked point blank, is there physical evidence of the existence of these objects, these aircraft, whatever they are? He said, yes, there is.
Wreckage in a hangar.
Wreckage. He did not say in a hangar. He just said he said the U.S. government has physical evidence.
Here we have a major mainstream news media figure telling it how it is. It goes beyond simply saying UFOs are real, they're extraterrestrial. There's something more, something too terrible to be told.
Are they real?
I'm not a believer, but we have had people saying that they've seen things.
But were President Donald Trump's no-nonsense answers on the question of UFOs simply an attempt to dismiss the matter once and for all? If so, it didn't work. In fact, many saw it as a sign that the U.S. government's policy toward all things extraterrestrial had begun to take a more candid and possibly more honest turn. And they remain convinced that disclosure is not simply imminent, but that it's already underway. The Pentagon, September 18th, 2019. In a reversal of decades of denial, a Navy spokesman confirms that recently circulated military footage that was thought to show UFOs is in fact authentic. The statement comes just 4 months after Navy pilots from the aircraft carrier Theodore Roosevelt revealed to the New York Times that in the summer of 2014 through March 2015, they encountered UFOs on a near daily basis off the east coast of the United States.
A number of senators have confirmed that they have received classified briefings on all this. This is a completely new ballgame here. We are in new and uncharted territory.
But do the recent military revelations concerning UFO encounters really mean that we are moving closer to the day of disclosure? Or is it simply that they are equally baffled by what they are witnessing and seek the help of the general public in finding answers?
It's frightening to hear how little our government truly knows about these unknown vehicles of unknown origin invading our airspace with impunity at all times upon their will.
Many people in the UFO community talk about it in terms of it being a single event. Disclosure with a big D, as I call it. In that scenario, the president clears his schedule, goes on television, announces to the world that there is an alien presence.
This
disclosure is simply an acknowledgement by the established structure of power that UFOs are real and some don't belong to our civilization.
Society is being prepped for this. Some believe through the revelations about government programs and military encounters. But all those things we're seeing now is the government getting ready to tell us, so that there won't be the huge shock and panic when it is announced, because the point is with all of this, of course, you don't shock people so much if you tell them something they already believe or suspect.
But whether the government's recent revelations about UFOs are the result of an unintended leak or part of a strategic plan, two things are certain. Unexplained encounters are happening with increasing frequency in U.S. airspace. And at the same time, the Navy revealed plans to create a new process to make it easier for pilots to report UFO sightings.
Even though the U.S. military stopped collecting reports for many, many years, they're clearly back in the business of at least filing them, accepting them from their pilots and so on. So I think it is the first real crack in the taboo.
This is not the way it used to be. It used to be you don't talk about things you see in the sky if you want to fly. So when the Navy loosens up the reporting options for pilots, that is a huge concession to the new reality. If these craft that are currently being observed, if those craft are not ours, if they are not Russian, and if they're not Chinese, we should all wonder who it is who has that type of aviation technology. And if it's not someone from our planet, well, who else is left?
The fact is that military pilots for years and years have been saying the same thing publicly. They just haven't gotten the attention that these individuals have gotten. That's the difference. And the real question is, why? And why now?
Now we've had these revelations, the Navy videos, the fact that the Navy have changed their policy of telling their pilots to report. Are things changing? And where do you think we're going with this?
I don't think that most news organizations will cover this persistently until the alien king breaks into the 6 o'clock news and demands obedience, right? I think they're going to persist in ignoring it because there's just a lot of social pressure to scoff. You get societal breakdown after a while when the people in charge lie, because it makes it impossible for people to accept anything, any explanation at face value. And it corrodes the bonds that connect the government to its citizens. So I think it's very likely that we're going to learn more.
There are many who believe that the disclosure process is not new, but has simply entered a different phase. They argue that disclosure actually started decades ago and was part of a strategic plan to prep the global population by means of books, movies, TV shows, and other forms of popular entertainment.
45% of the American people right now say that the ETs are already here. Well, they've been watching movies since they were 5 years old about extraterrestrials. We have been heavily indoctrinated or educated on the concept of extraterrestrials. We fly in spaceships in our CGI movies. So the idea that suddenly we're told there's extraterrestrials actually here as being some unbelievable, had no idea kind of thing. No.
But if mankind is on a so-called countdown to disclosure, does that simply mean that our government and those around the world are aware that intelligent life does exist on some other distant planet? Or does it suggest that some form of alien intelligence has already come here and may, in fact, have been living here for centuries? As far as ancient astronaut theorists and UFO enthusiasts are concerned, the sudden flurry of information concerning possible alien encounters comes as no surprise. For them, evidence of extraterrestrial encounters has been obvious for several decades. What has them baffled, however, is the fact that after decades of harsh denials,